Okay, sawa. So now you're still a group Nanoma. Are you producing for the group at this time?
Yeah, now once we left Lucas, now I started now producing for the group.
When was the first time you did what was the first production that you did, and when did you start producing?
I mean, I started in 97. The first song we did in Nanoma, I produced it. I mean, I played the keys, I hummed the melodies. Ambrose helped me technically. Just give it, a proper feel and vibe. But the first the first song like I can say of Nanoma that we really started was after we left Ogopa. Then immediately we left Ogopa, we approached Ted, because Ted Josiah was Big Mike's cousin. So he gave us a ridiculous quote of an album, 400k, in 2001. Where do you even start? Even today, an album is not 400k. And in first, he said that figure, I thought he was joking. I asked him again, how much? Yeah, he said, just bring 100k, everyone. We'll do the album. I was like, how do I even tell my mom? Where do I even start? How do I even tell her to give me money to do the album? So, I just looked at the other guys. I'm like, this is not our home. But Ted did for us one song called Tafadhali. With Wyre. Wyre used to work there. So actually, that song was completely produced and done by Wyre. I had no input in it. So after that's when now I took over completely as the sole producer.
So what were you producing on that time?
All the songs from Nanoma, most of them never went on air.
Yeah, but where did you produce?
In the bedroom. I closed my bank account, the one my mom had opened for me since I was a kid. I took 14k from it. Went to Lucas and brought Fruity Loops, Samplitude and Waves. Wave Lab. And a few plugins, Sonic Foundry, some compressors here, there. Then I went to a basement at Embassy House. Now it's a Prime Minister's office. There used to be a Japanese exhibition there like once a month. So I went and bought this Akai system. Speakers. I bought 2 Akai speakers and an amplifier. And we already had a computer at home. So I took it to my bedroom, locked myself in, cut stickers of 50 cents, the source, 5 mics, pasted the entire wall.
And that was your introduction?
That was my studio. So nilikuwa na studio. So I started. So that's why I started. So now, and also by that time, Nanoma is disintegrating. Toshi has flown out. Mike has gone to campus. Steve is doing piloting. So basically, it's just me and Mike who I kept in touch. But I mean, we couldn't do much. Like even I have like 3-4 songs with Mike only. The other guys were not available for those sessions. Yeah, but it just got to a point where like not even now Mike went to campus. So for me, I was like, I need to move on. So now that's when I went to Kalamashaka, to Ukoo Flani.
When was the first time you met Kalamashaka?
2001. That was the end of 2001. Towards the end. So beginning 2002, I started now recording them and doing for them beats. So for like the entire 202, mid 203, I was just working with Ukoo Flani. I did for them almost over 75 tracks. Over 75 tracks. Some are here never recorded. Never recorded.
So you'd make the beats in your room?
Silly. That time was.
So you carried you carried.
No, I would make the beats at home. Then we used to hire a studio in town called Soundscribe. So we'd go to the studio in town and record the vocals. So we would record vocals in different places. Then when Ninka came to do now the Ukoo Flani project, that Kilio Chahaki, she set up a studio in Doni. So now we started now moving most of the sessions there. But most of those sessions I wasn't there. It was Cheese and Brain who would record. So like the Dandora Banning album, yes, the tracks were all mine, most of them. Most of the tracks I did them. So actually it was me and Cheese and Brain. So they used my tracks. So Chizan was the one who engineered the project. I came later into the project as a mix engineer. So I mixed the project later. But the recording process was handled by Chizan at that point. Yeah.
And at this time, all your production is all self-taught?
Everything. And just observing. But you see, I was lucky because I started in a proper setup. I started in a setup where the foundations were right. So the concepts and the basics were set. You see, right now somebody's getting into production with a laptop. They don't understand signal chain, gain, auxiliaries. They don't know any of that stuff. So when they open these softwares, they're like, I mean, sometimes I used to get sessions for mixing and somebody has just put reverbs on all the channels. I'm like, dude, who does this? What's the point of an aux channel? I'm like, it's ridiculous. Just because you have plugins, you can just dump them. Because sometimes I tell guys the specs of my machine, they're like, then how do you handle all those? But if you know what the hell you're doing. So for me, I came from that school of thought. You have one reverb unit, you have 3 compressors, you have 8 tracks to work with. Manage them. Make a song out of 8 tracks. I'm seeing a guy recording a hi-hat on its own track. I'm like, dude, you're wasting. So they don't learn to comp sounds. They don't learn to play with sounds to utilize the resources they have. For me, I had done music for 4 years, way before I ever saw a wave file. I would splice by ear, Scrabble on the edit machine. You lock, you hear the transient. You know it's called a transient because it's a transient tab button. So I mean, I got the right foundation. I would say that is what squarely saved me. I just came into the industry before the digital phase went full blown. And a lot of guys now don't have that kind of training. So I was just lucky.
Tell me a few songs.
So what that taught me is, so that taught me to listen to music in a very, guys look at wave files. For me, 4 years, like over 10 songs, not a single wave file. I didn't even know how my kick looks like. I had to set it by ear, completely.
Oh. Let's move a bit like this.
Okay.
Okay, no, it's cool. Okay, so I don't want to run over these Kalamashaka production things that you work, because there's some big songs there. Like, tell us, how was it recording them and what songs did you record?
So the first time we went to the studio with the Ukoo Flani guys, the first song we did was Dandora Love. Dandora Love, then a song for Juliani that I don't even remember the song. That was the first time Juliani went to a studio.
Mapi kwa choo, ndio ilivyo MC na kuflash, ingia humu hakuna makash. Badala pedal pusha, ni maternity za tamati hizi nyakati. Penyo ndani na skati, msichana sasa mama. Nashika tama, mawazo ninazo. Sikutumia condom nikichwado something. Sahi najifunza kufunga napki. Siezi, ingia ring na keishaka. Ilana, kijana, kukunja ngumi baba. Kwa macho angu mi namba. Kill bomba, I'll see your jumba. Yeah.
The studio was called FIBA. It was in Hurlingham. I remember they didn't even have bus fare. So I went and begged my mom for 2 sock. That time 2 sock is a lot of money. I'm like, Mom, I'm taking these guys to studio. Can you just give us some money? My mom, she was a bit supportive, but she was like, you have to still go to campus. So I would use my allowance, then pay for the transport and everything for the session. We contributed like 3 Gs. We did about 6 songs. So some of those songs, that's where Dandora Love came out. Then DC na Sisi was recorded by a friend of mine called Edinari.
Bado beat that shit zinashikana kama DC na Sisi na flip script na beat na shit narudisha vitu paka enzi za BC. Defense 2 click yangu DC narudisha vitu paka enzi za BC. Defense 2 click yangu DC.
who had a studio in town.
Edu-G?
Yeah, not Edu-G. Edu-G had a friend called Edinary. Even that song that you've had, that name, Sound Scribes, that's Edu-G.
Edu-G of Black Star.
Yes, that's Edu-G. So Edu-G had a friend called Edinary. He used to be in Calabash. So
the chances of me saying Edu-G and it's Edu-G was a friend called Edu-G.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy.
So he gave us the studio where we recorded now Dandora. I mean, this in Assisi. So, but the Punchline Kibao, Angalia Sal, those were recorded at that studio in Donholm.
And those are songs you produced?
I did the tracks. Chizan recorded them. I mixed them later. Yeah. So Kina Bouncing, Mizani, all those. Now that time, those guys had gotten a studio. But also that time, I'd moved to Homeboyz. Yes.
They had moved to Homeboyz.
I had gone to Homeboyz. I'd joined Homeboyz.
Okay, tell us about, just before you tell us about the introduction into Homeboyz, what would you say that there's anything that you learned from the Kalamashaka experience?
Yeah, that being a radical and hard stance doesn't help. So you see, I mean, now staying with them now, I was like, yo, I don't see where this is gonna go. So that's like after 1 year. Because the whole of 202 I was with them. So beginning 203, because I met Issa like 2 weeks before he died. And I'd already now started feeling like, my music, where I want to go. Yeah, well, this is not. So I met him, we had chicken and chips, we chatted in length. He was just about to finish his album. I think he had even finished it, but it wasn't released. Yeah, so we just chatted. I mean, we had a lengthy chat. Yeah, so I mean, I just told him I'm misunderstanding, I was being radical. I mean, I didn't understand where the music was going. But he had no problem with us. And 2 weeks later, I went to his funeral. I mean, I was in disbelief. I was like, I could talk to this guy and next minute. Because I remember I talked to Hisa, then I went to Mombasa. I traveled to Coast. I got the information. I learned about the accident when I was having lunch in Mtutwande on our way back that Sunday. So I had on the news like mwanamuziki mashuhuri Samari alifariki jana usiku. So I was on my way back to Nairobi. So on Monday I went to their place. So his body, they took him to Kariako. Yeah, and for me now there I went full blown commercial. I left hip hop. I didn't leave hip hop, but as in my philosophy just changed. I was like, you know what? If you still want to achieve what you want to achieve, I mean, you have to open. You have to create new opportunities.